There's a secret most men never discover until they've lost everything. Women don't operate on logic. They operate on patterns. Every move, every emotion, every test she gives you has a purpose. The problem? You were never taught to read the code. What if I told you that every heartbreak, every mixed signal, every silent treatment has a reason you can predict? These aren't mysteries, they're patterns. And once you learn them, you stop chasing explanations and start controlling outcomes. Stay with me. By the end of this, you'll see women in a way you never have before. Most men only realize these truths after heartbreak, divorce, or betrayal. They wake up one day realizing they never truly understood the women they loved, only the version they were allowed to see. In today's world, where freedom and choices shape every interaction, love has become a battlefield of mixed intentions. But here's the truth. I'm not here to bash women, I'm here to decode them. Because once you understand how the female mind works, you stop reacting and start leading. In this series, I'll reveal 12 brutal truths about women every man must know. Lessons that will protect your peace, sharpen your awareness, and help you take back control. If this message already resonates, make sure you like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Because the journey starts now. Number 1. The comparison game? You're always measured against her past. Every woman you meet carries echoes of her past. Her first love, her heartbreak, her disappointments. These experiences become invisible rulers she uses to measure every man who comes after. When you make her laugh, she remembers who made her laugh first. When you hurt her, she remembers who hurt her worse. You're not competing with the man before you. You're competing with her memory of him. Most men try to win that invisible contest, thinking if they outshine the ghost, they'll finally earn her peace. But that's a trap. You can't outperform the past, because it's not real anymore. It's a story she keeps rewriting to protect her ego or justify her pain. The more you chase her validation, the deeper you sink into someone else's narrative. Instead, establish your own frame from day one. Make it clear that your relationship won't be built on comparisons, but on standards. Let her see that you're not trying to be better than anyone before. You're defining what better means. If she's emotionally mature, she'll recalibrate and meet you in the present. If she's still living in nostalgia or resentment, she'll resist and project. That's your cue, not to argue, but to walk away. You're not her past, you're her now. And if she can't see that, she's not ready. Number 2. Leverage is fool's gold. She respects power, not you. Many men mistake leverage for leadership. They think if they earn enough, look sharp enough, or build enough status, a woman will stay loyal. And maybe she will, but not to you. She'll stay loyal to what you can do for her. That's the illusion of leverage. It works only as long as the benefits keep flowing. The moment it stops, so does her devotion. What she truly respects isn't your money or your muscles. It's your certainty. Your ability to stay grounded when circumstances shift. The man who builds his worth on external things eventually loses both the woman and himself, because everything he depends on can vanish overnight. Leverage can attract attention, but it can't sustain respect. It buys cooperation, not admiration. When she senses that you need her validation to feel powerful, she'll test you, subtly at first, withholding affection, challenging decisions, comparing you to someone more successful. The goal isn't to destroy you, it's to see if your strength is real or performative. The cure is inner discipline. Develop principles that don't crumble when your situation changes. Lead with composure, not control. When you stop measuring your worth by what you have and start embodying who you are, her respect shifts from conditional to natural. When you stop leading with leverage, you start leading with power. Number 3. Hypergamy never sleeps. Her standards evolve faster than her value. Women are wired to seek the best option available, not out of greed, but instinct. It's part of their emotional survival code. Hypergamy isn't evil, it's nature. The problem begins when reality can't keep up with fantasy. As a woman's beauty peaks, so do her options. She gets used to the attention, the validation, the pursuit. But when that attention fades, her expectations rarely do. She still believes she deserves the same caliber of man, even when her effort, youth, or emotional stability no longer match what she demands. This is why so many modern women chase high-value men while offering less in return, Not because they're bad people, but because they've been conditioned by constant validation. As a man, your role isn't to shame that instinct, but to master yours. Don't chase hypergamy, let it filter for you. When you operate from strength, focus, and clarity, you'll naturally repel the entitled and attract the grounded. A woman who truly values you won't measure your worth by your wallet, your looks, or your followers. She'll respect your direction and your discipline. Never beg to be chosen. Be the choice her fantasy can't afford to lose. Her fantasy isn't your enemy. Your lack of standards is. Number 4. Emotional fragility. Feelings always beat. Logic. When a woman feels, she doesn't think, at least not in the way men expect. Logic speaks in order. Emotion speaks in urgency. That's why most arguments between men and women never find resolution. You're trying to fix the problem. She's trying to express the pain. Her emotions are waves. They rise, crash, and recede. If you panic when the tide comes in, you drown with her. But if you stay still, grounded, calm, she eventually matches your rhythm. That's the unspoken law of emotional leadership. The one who controls the tone controls the outcome. Most men make the mistake of trying to out-reason her. They explain. They defend. But when she's upset, explanations sound like excuses. You don't win through logic. You win through presence. When emotions are high, logic has no seat at the table. Instead of fighting her storm, anchor it. Mirror her emotion with presence, not submission. You don't have to agree to validate her feelings. You just have to stay unshaken. Listen, acknowledge, breathe, and wait until her emotional wave passes. Once her nervous system resets, logic can finally enter the conversation. Emotional fragility doesn't mean weakness. It means volatility. And volatility needs stability to find balance. That's your role. Not to silence her, but to steady her. Because the moment you lose your frame, you lose her trust. Most men lose power by reacting to her reactions. But the calm man, the one who refuses to get dragged into emotional chaos, becomes magnetic. Control your frame, and her emotions will recalibrate to yours. That's not manipulation. That's mastery. Number 5. The father gap. Principles start where guidance begins. A woman's first understanding of boundaries, respect, and stability often comes from her father. When that foundation is missing, something inside her stays unformed. Not her beauty, not her ambition, but her inner compass. Without strong male guidance, many women grow up defining value through attention, not accountability. They confuse intensity with intimacy and validation with love. When a woman hasn't experienced a grounded father figure, her emotional world becomes reactive. Every disagreement feels like rejection. Every boundary feels like abandonment. She tests men, not because she enjoys chaos, but because she's searching for the structure she never had. That's why, as a man, you must learn to vet beyond attraction. Ask questions that reveal her emotional architecture. Who shaped her? What does respect mean to her? How does she handle being told no? The answers will tell you whether you're building with a partner or a project. A woman who has healed her father wound carries calm. She doesn't need to challenge your authority to feel seen. She doesn't need to test you just to feel safe. But one who hasn't healed will constantly test your patience until you become either her savior or her scapegoat. And here's the truth. You can't build a future with a woman who's still healing from her past. You can only offer her stability, not salvation. That's why discernment is power. Most men get trapped trying to prove they're not like the others. They try to heal what they didn't break. But love can't fix what childhood broke. If she hasn't faced her wounds, they'll surface in every argument, every silence, every test. She doesn't need a rescuer. She needs responsibility. And that must come from her, not you. Never confuse compassion with obligation. Your job is not to complete her healing, but to protect your peace while she finds her own. A woman who's done the inner work brings peace, not patterns. And once you experience that difference, you'll never settle for emotional turbulence again. Number 6. Respect or nothing. Boundaries. Define value. Respect isn't requested. It's enforced. Every woman, consciously or not, tests a man's boundaries to understand his strength. It's not always malicious. It's instinct. She needs to know if the man she's with can protect his peace when emotions, attraction, or temptation are in play. If you fail that test, she won't hate you. She'll just stop trusting you to lead. Modern men often mistake tolerance for maturity. They let small acts of disrespect slide, sarcasm, attitude, emotional manipulation, because they fear losing her. But here's the irony. Every time you ignore a boundary, you teach her that you have none. Boundaries aren't walls, they're frameworks. They say, this is who I am. This is what I stand for. When you articulate your standards early, you eliminate confusion and filter out chaos. When you reinforce them consistently, you earn her respect, even when she disagrees. Yes, there will be moments when she pushes back just to see if you mean what you say. That's not the time to argue. That's the time to act. Calmly disengage. Don't raise your voice. Don't explain endlessly. Just enforce the standard. She'll either align with your values or expose her disregard for them. Either way, you win clarity. A woman respects what you enforce, not what you explain. Boundaries are not about control. They're about self-respect. And respect is the foundation of attraction. Because no matter how much she loves you, the moment she stops respecting you, she starts detaching from you. So protect your frame. Lead with quiet strength. Never compromise your peace to keep her comfort. The man who enforces his standards doesn't need to demand respect. It comes naturally. Because she sees you won't trade your dignity for her attention. That's leadership. That's masculine calm. And that's what separates men who chase validation from men who command loyalty. Number 7. Accountability resistance. She'll rarely admit she's wrong. When emotion dominates, accountability becomes a threat. For many women, admitting fault doesn't just mean saying, I was wrong. It feels like losing safety, losing control, or even losing love. That's why in the heat of conflict, logic becomes irrelevant. She's not defending her point, she's defending her identity. Most men try to force accountability by debating, confronting, or proving their case. But it never works. The harder you press, the deeper she retreats behind emotion. Her voice rises, her logic bends, and suddenly, you're the villain in a story you didn't write. The key isn't aggression, it's strategy. Ask questions that make her reasoning turn inward. Calmly guide her to connect her own contradictions. Say things like, if it's unfair when men do this, why is it okay when women do? Questions like that bypass defensiveness because they force introspection, not submission. When you stay calm while she spirals, her nervous system mirrors your steadiness. You become the mirror she can't distort. If she's mature, she'll eventually reflect and self-correct. If she's not, she'll deflect. And that's your answer. The goal isn't to win the argument. It's to reveal truth without chaos. Because accountability can't be forced. It can only be invited. That's real leadership. That's emotional intelligence. Let her logic defeat her emotion, not your ego defeating hers. When she learns truth through calm reflection instead of humiliation, she grows. And so does your connection. But if every disagreement turns into a blame game or emotional shutdown, recognize what that means. You're not dealing with partnership. You're dealing with emotional immaturity. Never argue for accountability. Stand in truth and let her meet you there. Because the man who stays grounded in logic and restraint doesn't just win arguments. He wins respect. Number 8. Feelings over duty. Happiness has replaced commitment. Modern love has a fragile spine. It bends under the weight of feelings. Today, I'm not happy anymore has become a valid reason to abandon years of promises, vows, and effort. Many women, and men, have been conditioned to believe that happiness is the measure of truth. That emotion outranks responsibility. But here's the cold truth. Feelings are temporary. Duty is not. Happiness fluctuates with mood and circumstance. Duty anchors you when emotions shift. The woman who treats duty as slavery will never respect stability. She only respects stimulation. She's addicted to emotional highs, mistaking excitement for connection. But when the thrill fades, she calls it incompatibility. not inconsistency. Before you commit, test her understanding of love under pressure. Ask, what does loyalty mean when you're angry? What does commitment look like when you're bored? If her answers revolve around how she feels instead of what she chooses, she's not ready for partnership. She's ready for pleasure. As a man, your role isn't to keep her happy every day. Your role is to lead with integrity, consistency, and purpose. The right woman will find her happiness within that structure. The wrong one will destroy that structure trying to feel free. Because the truth is, duty is what love becomes when the feelings fade. A woman who treats duty as optional will treat you as replaceable. A woman who values stability over thrill will stand beside you through both storms and silence. And that's the kind of loyalty modern men rarely experience, because most chase emotion instead of principle. Don't chase chemistry. Build consistency. Because chemistry fades. Character doesn't. Number 9. Validation addiction. The silent killer of modern relationships. In today's world, validation is currency. Attention is oxygen. For many women, it's no longer enough to be loved by one man. They crave the applause of many. Likes, comments, and compliments have replaced intimacy as emotional fuel. It starts innocently. A selfie here, a few compliments there. But soon, every quiet moment feels like withdrawal. She needs the next hit, a new admirer, a new outfit, a new post, a new stage. And here's the danger. You can't compete with an addiction that feeds on endless supply. A woman addicted to attention doesn't build relationships. She builds mirrors. She doesn't want to be understood, she wants to be seen. And when the applause fades, so does her affection. Love becomes performance, and connection becomes a stage. The deeper problem isn't the attention, it's the dependence. Because the moment a woman ties her worth to public validation, private intimacy starts dying. She's half with you, half with the audience she performs for. You'll feel it in her distance, in her restlessness, in the way peace never lasts. Because peace feels like boredom to someone who needs constant eyes on her. Your job isn't to control her attention, it's to discern her values. Choose women who are at peace in silence, who don't need the world to confirm what they already know about themselves, who find self-worth in stillness, not spotlight. Because attention fades, but inner contentment never does. When you meet a woman who values her peace more than public approval, that's rare. That's gold. That's the kind of woman who doesn't perform love. She builds it. And in a world addicted to validation, that's the only kind of connection that lasts. Number 10. The male friend illusion. Hidden desire behind just friends. Let's destroy one of the biggest lies in modern relationships. That men and women can always be just friends. Truth? They can, but rarely. Because attraction isn't something you can turn off with words like bro or bestie. It hides under politeness, under emotional connection, under time. For many women, male friends act as emotional safety nets, a backup source of validation, comfort, or attention when her main relationship loses spark. You'll notice it in small ways. She laughs harder at his jokes. She defends him quickly. She hides the depth of their conversations. And if you question it, she calls you insecure. But understand this. Insecurity and awareness are not the same thing. Insecurity fears losing control. Awareness recognizes patterns. A man who's emotionally invested in her, even slightly, is not just a friend. He's an emotional placeholder waiting for her relationship to fail. This doesn't mean every male friend is a threat, but it does mean that boundaries must be real, not performative. If she values your trust, she'll make her loyalty visible, not questionable. If she hides her interactions, that's not friendship. That's emotional insurance. Remember, faithfulness isn't tested in commitment. It's tested in temptation. And the woman who truly respects you won't keep a back door open to male attention. Because when a woman needs backup men, she's not in love. She's in negotiation. Number 11. Beauty fades, substance doesn't. The depth test. In her 20s, beauty gives her options. In her 30s, character defines her value. By her 40s, peace becomes her power. The cruel trick of society is that it sells women temporary currency, looks, while neglecting permanent wealth, depth. Many modern women invest more in filters than in self-awareness, more in followers than in values, and more in allure than in peace. But here's the irony. Men grow more selective with maturity, not less. The older a man gets, the more he values stability over beauty, consistency over chaos, because beauty may catch the eye, but only depth holds the soul. Ask any man who's been through emotional chaos. He'll tell you peace is more seductive than curves, and loyalty is more attractive than makeup. The right woman doesn't compete for attention. She commands it through presence. She doesn't chase validation. She radiates self-worth. That's the kind of beauty that never fades. So when you meet a woman obsessed with being seen, understand she's still searching for herself. But when you meet a woman comfortable in silence, that's someone who's found herself. Choose depth over decoration. Because what time takes from the body, it gives to the soul. If she's been growing, not performing. Number 12. The leadership paradox. She wants to be led, but not controlled. This is the final code, and maybe the most misunderstood. Most modern women say they want an equal, but what they feel drawn to is leadership. Not dominance, not control, leadership. It's the quiet strength of a man who knows who he is, where he's going, and doesn't need validation to stand his ground. The paradox is this. She'll resist leadership in words, but crave it in emotion. When you lead with confidence, she relaxes. When you hesitate, she tests. When you break under pressure, she loses trust. But when you stand firm, calm, clear, and unshaken, she softens. Because deep down, feminine energy wants to surrender to safety, not submission to control. The difference is energy, not authority. Control demands obedience. Leadership inspires respect. A strong man doesn't overpower her. He grounds her. He doesn't cage her freedom. He gives it direction. That's why emotional leadership is the ultimate masculine trait. It's not loud, it's not aggressive. It's steady, focused, and protective. And the woman who's truly feminine will always find peace under a man's clarity. Not because she's weak, but because she finally feels safe enough to stop leading. Final words. The full code. Modern dating has become a battlefield of egos, expectations, and emotional confusion. Men are told to be softer. Women are told to be stronger. And everyone ends up exhausted, chasing validation instead of value. But the truth is timeless. Masculine and feminine energy were never meant to compete. They were meant to complete. You don't fix modern love by becoming colder. You fix it by becoming clearer. Know what you want. Lead with truth. Demand depth. And never mistake chaos for connection. Because when a man stands in quiet strength and emotional awareness, he doesn't need to chase loyalty. It naturally gravitates toward him. That's the real code unlocked. Not just about women, but about yourself.